They tell you the hardest part of building an empire is the work. They talk about the late nights, the empty bank accounts, the absolute exhaustion. They are lying. The work is just the entry fee. The absolute hardest part of the ascent is the deafening silence that follows when you look around the table and realize the people you starved with, the people you bled with, no longer want you to eat. You thought you were climbing together. But the moment you take that first real step toward your dream, the dynamic fractures. Loyalty turns into resentment, and the brothers you trusted most are suddenly holding the knife. Welcome to the Cost of Ascent. Today, we dissect the dark psychology of betrayal. Why the street respects the struggle but despises the escape. To understand the anatomy of betrayal, you must first understand the illusion of loyalty at the bottom. When you are operating at ground level, when your pockets are empty and your future is entirely uncertain, loyalty is incredibly easy to maintain. Why? Because you all share the exact same baseline. You are united by the struggle. You complain about the same broken systems, you hate the same bosses, and you dream the same vague dreams of someday making it out. Misery does not just love company. Mediocrity absolutely demands it. In this environment, your circle feels like a fortress. You call them family. You swear that when one of you makes it, you all make it. But this brotherhood is fundamentally flawed. It is not built on shared ambition. It is built on shared stagnation. You are comfortable with each other because nobody is actively challenging the status quo. Nobody is holding up a mirror to the wasted time. Then, the shift happens. The shift is never a massive, cinematic event. It starts with microscopic changes in your behavior. It happens the first time you decline an invitation to hang out because you need to work on your business plan. It happens when you stop spending your weekends numbing your mind and start investing your nights into the hustle. You start speaking differently. Your focus sharpens. You begin to execute while they are still just talking. At first, they will disguise their discomfort as concern. They will tell you that you are working too hard, that you have changed, that you are forgetting where you came from. Do not mistake this for care. This is the first psychological defense mechanism of the stagnant mind. Your sudden discipline is highly offensive to them, because every time you choose the late-night grind over the comfortable distraction, you are silently exposing their lack of effort. Your ambition becomes a glaring spotlight on their excuses. You see, as long as you were failing with them, their failure felt acceptable. It felt like the fault of the world. But the second you start gaining traction, the second you prove that the self-made mentality actually works, you destroy their narrative. If you can build an empire from the exact same dirt they are standing on, they can no longer blame the dirt. They have to blame themselves. And the human ego will do anything to avoid accountability. It is far easier for them to tear you down, to label you as greedy, arrogant, or fake, than it is to admit that they simply do not have the heart for the climb. The street loves a dreamer, but it absolutely despises an achiever who actually escapes. This is the first devastating payment you make to the iron ledger of success. You realize that outgrowing your environment feels exactly like betrayal. But the reality is, you didn't betray them. You just finally stopped betraying yourself. And while you process this heartbreak, the attacks from your inner circle are about to become much more direct and much more calculated. The shift from passive discomfort to active sabotage rarely announces itself with a declaration of war. It is subtle. It begins the exact moment your hypothetical ambition materializes into tangible results. The first time real money hits your account. The first time your name carries weight in rooms they do not have access to. The moment your late nights and relentless grind finally produce the undeniable proof of your ascent. This is the breaking point for the stagnant mind, because as long as your success was just an idea, they could tolerate it. But the physical reality of your progress is a direct threat to their entire existence. The sabotage begins with whispers. The people you broke bread with, the ones who know your history, suddenly become the architects of your downfall. They do not attack your business model or your work ethic. They attack your character. They start planting seeds of doubt in the minds of the community. They say you changed. They say the money made you arrogant. They whisper that you forgot where you came from simply because you refuse to stay trapped in the exact same place they are. Watch closely how they react to your victories. A true brother celebrates your wins as if they were his own. But the saboteur, they will offer a half-hearted congratulations, followed immediately by a warning. They will attempt to minimize your achievements. They will attribute your relentless hustle to sheer luck, or claim you had an unfair advantage. They do this to protect their own fragile egos. Because acknowledging your hard work means acknowledging their own lack of execution. The sabotage often disguises itself as caution. They will give you terrible advice wrapped in the illusion of care. They will tell you to play it safe, to not risk too much, to settle down before you lose it all. They want you to slow down so they can catch up without actually running. And when you ignore their mediocre advice and continue to accelerate, the resentment turns toxic. This brings us to the darkest realization on the road to building an empire. Your outright enemies can only attack you from the front, but your inner circle knows exactly where your armor is weak. They know your insecurities, your past failures, your deepest fears. And a jealous friend will weaponize that intimate knowledge to derail your focus. They will deliberately start drama right before your biggest meetings. They will demand your time and energy when you have none left to give, and then play the absolute victim when you finally set a boundary. They want you to feel guilty for surviving. They want you to feel bad for demanding more out of life than a corner block and a weekend distraction. You must understand this fundamental law of the ascent. The people who truly want you to win will never make you feel guilty for winning. The sabotage is deliberately designed to pull you back into the crab bucket. If they can make you doubt yourself, if they can make you slow down to comfort their insecurities, they win. You have to make a ruthless decision. You must sever the emotional cord. You have to look at the people you once called family and accept the cold reality that their season in your life has expired. The cost of carrying dead weight up a mountain is your own exhaustion. And the higher you climb, the less oxygen there is for passengers who refuse to walk. The moment you finally sever the ties with the saboteurs, the immediate aftermath is not a profound sense of relief. It is a suffocating, absolute silence. You have stopped answering the late-night calls. You have stopped attending the pointless gatherings. You have officially detached your ambition from their stagnation. And suddenly, you look around your room at 3 in the morning, and there is absolutely no one else there. Welcome to the isolation. This is the third, and perhaps the most demanding payment on the iron ledger of your ascent. For the vast majority of human beings, isolation is a punishment. The street conditions you to believe that if you are riding alone, you are losing. Society wires you to constantly seek validation from a crowd, to need a circle to confirm your identity. When that circle is completely gone, the psychological withdrawal is brutal. You will question your own sanity. You will wonder if the empire you are trying to build is actually worth the price of this profound loneliness. The temptation to turn back, to apologize for your ambition, and to shrink yourself just to fit back into the warm comfort of mediocrity will be overwhelming. Many break at this exact altitude. They cannot handle the thin air. They realize that being a self-made architect requires working in the dark, without an audience, without applause, and without a safety net. So they retreat. They go back to the people who actively wanted them to fail, simply because familiar pain is far easier to endure than unknown solitude. But if you want to survive the ascent, you must fundamentally reprogram how you perceive this silence. You must stop looking at isolation as a prison and start weaponizing it as your greatest strategic advantage. The loneliness you feel is not a penalty. It is a filter. It is the necessary clearing of the noise. When you are completely alone, there is no one left to project their insecurities onto your goals. There is no one left to tell you that your blueprint is too risky or your grind is too obsessive. The isolation becomes a hyperbolic time chamber. The hours you used to waste defending your dreams to people who are committed to misunderstanding them are now entirely yours. You redirect that massive amount of energy directly into relentless execution. You begin to realize that the most dangerous individuals in any room are the ones who have mastered their own solitude. A man who does not need a crowd to validate his existence is a man who cannot be manipulated by the threat of being left alone. When you stop fearing the quiet, you become untouchable. Your focus narrows to a laser point. The late nights stop feeling like a sacrifice and start feeling like a fortress. This isolation is the forging ground of the self-made mind. You are breaking down the fragile ego that needed external approval, and you are building a new, ironclad psychology that operates strictly on internal metrics. You are no longer reacting to the street. You are dictating your own reality. But this phase of the climb comes with a dark realization. As you build your empire in the quiet, as your wealth and influence begin to compound, the isolation morphs into something entirely different. You are no longer just alone. You become a target, because the world does not ignore power. It tries to extract from it. And the next lesson you must learn is how to defend the fortress you built in the dark. The fortress is built. The isolation has hardened your psychology. The late nights have finally compounded into undeniable, visible power. You have transitioned from a dreamer into an architect of reality. But the moment you step out of the shadows and into the glaring light of your own success, the rules of the game fundamentally change. You are no longer fighting the gravity of your past. You are fighting the magnetism of your present. Power does not exist in a vacuum. It possesses a gravitational pull that attracts an entirely new breed of predators. At the bottom, you dealt with saboteurs, people driven by insecurity and the fear of being left behind. Their attacks were emotional, but at the top, the attacks are strictly transactional. The people approaching your table now do not care about your history. They do not care about the years you starved in the dark, the relationships you sacrificed, or the psychological toll of your ascent. They only see the feast you have prepared, and they have arrived with empty plates demanding a seat. These are the opportunists, the false partners, the charlatans who speak the fluent language of ambition, but completely lack the calluses of execution. They will come dressed in tailored suits or wearing the mask of collaboration. They will offer you shortcuts to scale your empire. They will promise to multiply your wealth, expand your network, or handle the heavy lifting. But you must understand the iron law of the boardroom. Nobody offers to carry your crown unless they are secretly planning to steal the gold. When you have a massive target on your back, every handshake is a potential liability. Every smile is a calculated assessment of your blind spots. The danger here is far more sophisticated than the petty jealousy of old friends. An old friend wanted you to fail so they could feel better about themselves. A new predator wants you to succeed just enough so they can extract the maximum amount of resources before discarding you. They are emotional vampires wearing the disguise of mutual benefit. You must develop a ruthless, almost mechanical level of discernment. The self-made mind cannot afford the luxury of blind trust. You have to audit every single individual who attempts to enter your perimeter. What is their actual leverage? What do they stand to lose if this partnership fails? If the answer is nothing, they are not a partner. They are a parasite. You must learn to read the subtext of their compliments and the true motive behind their sudden favors. A favor from an opportunist is never a gift. It is an invoice waiting to be collected at the worst possible time. They will inevitably call you paranoid. They will tell the industry you are too guarded, too difficult to work with, too cold. Let them talk. Let them label you. Paranoia in the presence of power is not a psychological disorder. It is the ultimate survival mechanism. You did not sacrifice your sleep, your youth, and your peace of mind just to hand the keys of your empire to someone who only showed up for the victory lap. The ascent forces you to become the absolute gatekeeper of your own energy and capital. You must enforce your boundaries with unapologetic violence. The cost of admission to your inner circle must be prohibitively high. payable only in undeniable competence and proven loyalty over years, not weeks. Because once the target is permanently affixed to your back, you realize a terrifying truth. Protecting the empire requires twice the relentless energy it took to build it. And as the stakes get higher, you approach the final, ultimate test of the self-made mind. The final phase of the ascent is not a loud, cinematic celebration. There is no parade. There is only a quiet, profound realization. You stand at the summit of the empire you built with your own blood and your own hands, looking down at the immense distance between who you were and who you have become. The saboteurs who whispered your name in the dark are still exactly where you left them, fighting over the same miserable scraps in the exact same crab bucket. The predators who tried to extract your wealth have been systematically dismantled, outmaneuvered, and permanently exiled from your perimeter. And the crushing isolation that once felt like a brutal punishment has now evolved into your most sacred, impenetrable sanctuary. You have paid the cost in full. Every late night, every lost relationship, every moment of paralyzing doubt was a transaction. The iron ledger is finally balanced. But society will look at you and ask the inevitable question: why endure this psychological warfare? Why sacrifice the warm comfort of the crowd, the illusion of early friendships, and the easy peace of a painfully normal existence? Why willingly walk into the fire of betrayal, isolation, and paranoia? Because the alternative is unbearable. The alternative is to live a life entirely dictated by the limitations, fears, and rules of other people. The alternative is to die with your true, terrifying potential permanently locked inside of you, simply to keep mediocre individuals feeling comfortable in your presence. You chose the brutal path of the ascent because you understood a fundamental, unspoken law of the universe. True power and respect are never given. They are aggressively, relentlessly forged. You did not build this empire just to acquire luxury or to prove a petty point to the people who laughed at your vision. Proving them wrong was just the initial cheap fuel to get the engine running. You built this to secure your absolute, undeniable autonomy. You built this so that when you finally sit at the head of the table, you know with absolute, unshakable certainty that no one handed you the chair. You took it. The scars of this climb, the heartbreak of severed loyalties, the cold discernment you were forced to develop, the heavy bags under your eyes from 1,000 sleepless nights, they are not signs of damage. They are your armor. They are the iron legacy you leave behind. They are the physical testament to the fact that you absolutely refused to be a victim of your starting environment, and instead, you became the ruthless architect of your own reality. The street will always respect the struggle, but it takes an absolute mastermind to survive the escape and keep the crown. This is the unvarnished reality of the self-made mind. The cost of ascent is everything you thought you were, violently exchanged for everything you were meant to become. If you have survived the betrayal, if you are currently sitting in isolation, building your empire in the absolute dark, if you refuse to apologize for the size of your ambition, then you belong at this table. Subscribe to the Ledger. We are documenting the unwritten rules of the grind, and your climb has only just begun. Stay sharp.